Okay, here we go. It's my third attempt here to try to explain the new designations of the Y chromosome paternal haplogroups. But before I get started, David had a question. Well, he was asking about the T haplogroup in Jewish populations. So I want to address that in a little bit. Let me see if I can find. Probably have to bring up the maps for that. Anyways, I'll address it a little bit, maybe without the maps. So let's see what we do here. So we'll go ahead and I guess we'll just use one of these. This map here for the time being. Okay, yeah, I think this shows the T, doesn't it? Yeah, it shows the T. Okay. So the T haplogroup in the Jewish population, and this is a concern of Dr. Nathaniel Jensen, the geneticist. He labeled the J as Turkic, and which is a contradiction of this Middle Eastern Semitic J1P58, which is the Cohen-Model haplotype in these areas, strongly in these areas. And so the J1 stays a little bit to the south, and the J2 is a little bit more in the north. But this is clearly Judaic. M172, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can tell, is from the house of David, the descendants of the house of David, because there's other J2 lineages. They're not all M172, just like there's other J1 lineages. They're not all P58, obviously. These are just samples, examples of the different haplotype lineages, as a matter of fact. So the T is a very interesting haplogroup. Now that here we have it in the Mediterranean right here, right? The reason why it's here is because there's this place called Tarshish here in the Mediterranean. You may have heard of Tarshish. And it's a namesake of the Tartarus and the Tarsisus of the world. And so it's a big, significant part of the history of Iberia and the Mediterranean Sea. So where else do we have the T? Because they were sea peoples. I have designated them as the descendants of Javan because the sons of Javan are Elisha, Dodanim, Kittim, and Tarshish. And they're all located in these islands of Cyprus and throughout the Mediterranean as being the Mediterranean Greek sea people, not to be confused with the L, which were also Greek people, which Alexander the Great took to India. So, and sometimes the populations are bigger in the places they went to than when the places they came from, because a lot of times the places they came from were replaced, the population was replaced, as is the case with the Horn of Africa, where the T is also in the Horn of Africa, because the Greek sea people had trade with the Horn of Africa. And so there was a lot of T in the Horn of Africa, and likewise, there's a lot of E3s in Greece. So there was an exchange of goods and people, and a flow of people back and forth from Greece. Of course, this is not a Semitic area. It's the area of the northern nations. So the L is the Thracians, the descendants of the Thracians, descended from Tiras. They're the ones that are descended from Thrace, from Tiras of the Thracians. And the T is the descendants of Javan, who were the Mediterranean Sea people. Now, the only T in the Jewish population that I can tell that is significant is the Portuguese population. One Portuguese population. The other, there's two Portuguese populations that have the T in their Jewish populations. One of them does not have the T. The other one does have a significant amount of the T, like 15%. So it's kind of clear to me that they had some kind of a relationship with Tarshish, way, way back in the day. So other than that, there's not a whole lot of T, which I've been through this before. I have videos made on it too, talking about the T in the Jewish population. The only place that I've seen it, and I go through the pie charts and everything showing it, is in one of the populations. There's like two populations, or Jewish populations, and one of them has the T, the other one doesn't have the T. But it seems to me that the T in the Jewish population is mostly from that Jewish group. But I guess it's also supposed to be in the Ashkenazi Jews as well. But if you look up the pie charts, it'll show the T in the Jewish populations as well. But it's not 15%. It's more like 1 or 2%. Similar to the I in the Jewish population is like 1%. The Q is also in Jewish populations because of an interesting historical fact that in the days of the Medes and the Persians, when the Jews were in the land of the Medes and the Persians, and the book of Esther, at the time of the book of Esther, when they tried to annihilate the Jews, it says at the very end of the book of Esther, it says that the Medes and the Persians became Jews. So this Q haplogroup in the Jewish population is way back from the time when they were in the land of the Medes and the Persians, which is this area here somewhere below the Caspian Sea. So that's how they got the Q in their population. The other one that they have in their population is the G. The G, of course, this is only one G, one lineage of G, but the G is the Assyrians. And I often comment that whenever people, because this is like where all the wars were in the Middle East, whenever there was, the Medes and the Persian came through, they went all the way to Lydia. But whenever they were defeated, they were like pushed back up into the mountains. So here's another J2. It's an M67. It's a different J2. And here's a different J1. Is M267, which could be a tribe of Israel. Different tribe. Both of these could be different tribes of Israel that went up into they call this the area, the Caucasus region, Caucasus Mountains. And a lot of the people, there was such strong influence that even there was a king in this area, they converted to Judaism, and they try to say that's what the Ashkenazi Jews are Caucasus people, but the Ashkenazi Jews have a very, very strong amount of J1 and J2 in their population. Very significant amount, majority. The largest haplogroup is J1 and J2 in the Jewish population. So, I mean, obviously there's some influence, maybe from G there's more of an R1A in the Ashkenazi Jewish population than the Sephardic Jews. The Sephardic Jewish populations are in like Southern Europe and Northern Africa. They have more of an R1B in their population, apparently. But that's more or less my explanation of the T in the Jewish. Besides the fact, the only thing I forgot was that the Jews also had a close relationship with the Phoenicians in the days of King Solomon, after King David brought peace to the world. And in the days of Solomon, it was a time of peace, and they had a close relationship with the Phoenicians, who apparently traveled all the way to America, because what do we have in America? Let me see if I can go there. What do we have in America here? What's this? What's this? What? R1B. How'd that get there? R1B in the Great Lakes region, the Northeast Amerindians. Wow. So not only is the Q, of course the Q is kind of obvious, but it didn't come through the Beringia they call it, the Bering Strait. They came more through the other way. See this question mark line of the R1B? It's supposed to be the question mark line of the origin of the R1B and how it got there. Well, there's an interesting thing in the Great Lakes region. There's an ancient compromise there, and it seems to me that in the days of Solomon they were there. This is like Mediterranean haplogroup. They were mining copper in the Great Lakes region. I've covered that many times before too, as well. So that's how there's another question mark here, because they're not sure. Actually, let me go to another map, because I have some more maps. Instead of going through Beringia, the Bering Strait, there's a strong indication that they went the other way. So let me see what I'm looking for now. I think this is the map. Is this the map I want to show? Yeah, this will work, I think. So this is interesting here for a couple of reasons. One is the P that I wanted to get into. The P lineage, which I hardly ever even saw before. And all of a sudden here, look at this P lineage. There's a huge, and it seems to mirror the migrations of the K lineage, which I can also show. But the other thing I wanted to show is that, remember, they had a question mark as to the route of the Q there. Let me just drop this real quick. Remember this question mark here? See this question mark as to whether they came this way? Because this is a QM3, apparently it's another lineage or something. But anyways, and there's QM3 there. But I've shown many times, or several times by now, that the majority of the people came to Central America and spread out north and south from Central America. That's what the lineages show. Let me get back over to this one. So this is correct. This lineage is correct here of the Inuits. The Inuits did cross the Bering Strait and went straight on over to, in North America, hunting seals, following seals or something, or seals and whales and stuff like that. But this other lineage, I don't believe came this way because of the lineage that showed the this Q, going off the coast of Africa. It actually shows it coming out of Asia, going off the coast of Africa to Central America and spreading out south, mostly south and north and south from Central America, which is a new thing to me because they always said they went through the Bering Strait, but that's not what the genetic lineage shows. The other thing is this P lineage, and the other thing I wanted to point out was that they like to think that the P lineage produced the QR lineage, the Q and R lineage, but it's not that the P lineage produced these other lineage, it's that they have a common ancestor. They have a SNP marker that connects them together, but it's not that one produced the other, it's that they have a common ancestor. But they keep wanting to show a progression of lineages that one came from the other, came from the other, came from the other. That's what they want to show. But that's not the case. So the other, in the earlier video, I was showing the P, it was up here in Eastern Europe, right? And I didn't know there was so much P in Eastern Europe. And that would make sense that it would be, or could be, it probably was, Meshech. So I'm going to be changing the N lineage instead of, because the N lineage really is a part of the O lineage in Asia. They just separated it a long time ago. But in that case, there's a lot more Magog in the area that we know of Magog to have been, plus this P lineage being Meshech would also be in the area. Plus, this migration route of the P into South Asia mirrors the migration of the K lineage, which I also wanted to show. I guess it's on the other map. So we'll just go to the other maps. There's David. Yeah, so let me see if I can find, yeah, here we go. This shows all of them together. So the K, you can see the K is here, and the P is here. These are, I used to think that, some people say the K is just the whole group, but it's not just the whole group. It's a separate lineage by itself, as well as representing the whole group. P, likewise, is not just a label of the Q and the R. It's a lineage on its own, as we've been seeing in these maps. So this K actually goes down into Australia. And the K, you can see, goes all the way over here, and it actually turns into the M and the S. So the K lineage turns into the M and the S, which is in Papua New Guinea. And they separated a long time ago, so far back in time that they look like separate lineages. The M and the S and the K look like separate lineages, but they're actually the same lineage from the same time in the genetic distance of the Y chromosome. So they actually branch off all at the same time, the K, the M, and the S. And the P, basically mirroring the migrations of the K, seems to indicate to me that it, it makes sense for it to be Meshech and Tubal migrating together. The descendants of Meshech and Tubal migrating together makes sense. So, again, here we go. We have the M. Well, the K is all this red and pink and orange. So all this red, pink, and orange is all K, S, and M. And then the P is the blue. And you can see it's a significant portion here. And of course, here it's only showing a sliver, but that's out of the whole population. That's not the individual population. Here it is in the Middle East as well, the P. Because, of course, that's where everybody originated from, is the Tigris-Euphrates River, Mesopotamia. So it makes sense that it'll be there. But this blue then would be, or this light blue, no, the dark blue. So, okay, so the dark blue, yeah, not the light blue, not the sky blue, the darker blue, is the descendants of Meshech. This is the new designation of or a new assignment of the lineage, because I wasn't even considering the P, because the P was never in any of the diagrams that I saw, but apparently I wasn't looking at the right ones. But the P is the lineage by itself. It's not just a progenitor of the Q and the R. It's a complete, total lineage by itself. As you can see, the huge population of Meshech in Asia. And, of course, that would make more sense that both the M and the O, I mean the N and the O, the Siberians and the East Asians belong to the same group. They just separated a long time back in history. But, of course, the other one in the area of Magog would be Meshech. And then the other one is K. There's K. K is all this yellow, orange, and red. That's Tubal. And the M and the S. That's all Tubal. All this red and orange, that's all Tubal. So it's all Magog, Meshech, and Tubal in Asia, in these areas here. And, of course, it goes all the way in Europe, which before I didn't have Magog in Eastern Europe. And now that I have N designated, of the Siberian N designated as Magog, then now Magog is in Europe, Eastern Europe. So that's the new designation is the P, which is Meshech. So it's Magog, Meshech, and Tubal, basically migrating together all throughout northern Eastern Europe and northern Siberia and Asia, all the way down into South Asia. Of course, this is highly influenced, these haplogroups are highly influenced by the Denisovan DNA of the Denisovan K, because probably, I think there's a strong indication that it's the D haplogroup and possibly the C as well, that contributed to the genetic makeup of the Denisovans from the Denisova cave that they discovered in the Altai Mountains. Because C is there and D is there in the Tibetan Plateau. So both C and D are there. Could have been either one or the other. That's why the people most resembling Denisovans DNA are being found to be people of Papua New Guinea and the Philippines. Various tribes in the Philippines are more Denisovan. And you can clearly see the Hamitic influence, and well, plus the fact that the more sun there is, the more melanin is going to be in the population. Even like India has a lot of melanin, even the R2s, the R1 and R1A, R1Bs. They still have a lot of melanin in their population as well, probably from autosomal DNA as well, but it's highly selective probably for being in the area of the South Pacific anyway. So, and plus the K is in Australia and the C is in Australia. Both of them are Hamitic haplogroups. I think the C is a larger population, K is a lesser population, or in different areas, but both of them are Hamitic. Of course, the C goes throughout the Pacific, but doesn't reach South America from the Pacific. The one that does reach America from the Pacific is the one, the C3, the C3 group that probably crossed through the Mediterranean, because the C was in Europe too. The original Europeans, they say, were darker, yeah, because the C haplogroup was there in Europe at the time. So that's interesting. Let me see what else we got here. Let me go back to David's question, because I think you have another question. There, this makes it thoroughly confusing. Yeah, let me just go back to David's question. See what happens. There's David. Greetings. Okay, the Jays originally came from Zagros mountain areas, present day of northwestern Iran. Even though never had considered Afro-Asiatic populations, E1B1 during the Iron Bronze Age. The presence of the Egyptians throughout the area of the Levant area is always been strong anyway. So there is a significant E in the Jewish population as well. But I don't think they're originally from the mountain areas. I think they're originally from Mesopotamia, because they're descendants of Jacob, pretty much, and Abraham, actually. They're descendants of Abraham, both Arabic and Jewish. But the Jewish lineages and the Arabic lineages are different lineages. They're just both J1s. And some of the J1s are Cohen model haplotype of the tribe of Levi. Let's see. If you would say J's are Hebrews' original paternal lineage, how would you distinguish between Ishmael, Hebrew, or that's the thing. It's not going to be easy, because, of course, Abraham had 7 sons, and the J2 is pretty much all Judah. But the J1 includes other lineages like the Arabic lineages, the lineages of the other 6 sons or 7 sons of Abraham, because it wasn't only Isaac. Isaac wasn't Abraham's only son. He had, I think, 7 other sons, including Ishmael. But it would be a lot of work to try to figure that out. I haven't had time to go look into it to distinguish the difference between even Arabic and Jewish. I mean, some of them I think are kind of clear as to whether they're Arabic or Jewish, but otherwise, I mean, and plus we don't have all the information at our fingertips anyways to be able to decide, which is which and who is who, because of course there's Edomites too. There's other Hebrews besides Abraham, possibly, So it's really not an easy thing to sort out yet. I mean, you have to spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. Recent studies of Hindi populations in India and Pakistan, would you consider most of them were originally Hebrew descendants? Reason why there are Elam, Semitic age population transferred to India. Well, the Dravidians have a known history of migrating to India. They considered themselves as Arabs, because what else would they consider themselves as? But they are they're actually referred to as Elamo-Dravidians, and they have a known history of having migrated to India. It's actually the the great civilization in India, that area. So yeah, so the H Elam is Semitic. Most of them were originally Hebrew descendants. Well, they were Semitic. I don't know if they, yeah. Well, I guess you could call them Hebrews, but they were Semitic. The Hebrews are descended from Eber, which is a descendant from Arphaxad. Eber, namesake of the Hebrews, is descended from Arphaxad. Arphaxad is the firstborn of Shem. Elam would be the second. Asher would be the third. And then Aram and Lud would be the later ones, which I don't know which is which yet. But yeah, they're mostly, staying the same. The only thing different now is that there's a P haplogroup that I didn't even consider. Okay, up north, India, Manasseh, sons of Manasseh. That's a possibility. You have to. They're doing Aliyah. Yeah, you'd have to do a DNA test, and if they're doing Aliyah, they probably have the Chromosomal haplotype or something in their population, or some Judaic, J2 or something. And they would be practicing sons of Manasseh. That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to find out their lineage. Maybe we could determine another separate tribe in India. I mean, we do know of Thomas. We do know that Thomas went to India. I mean, by tradition, anyways. B'nai Manasseh, or OM175 Y-DNA. But the O is not Semitic, though. That's the problem. So you'd have to find a haplogroup that would be Semitic, because O is actually the sense of Magog. Why is India exploding in population? Well, probably because they have a large poor population of poor people with not a whole lot of access to education and medication and everything. But, I mean, we're supposed to be fruitful and multiply. Of course, India is fairly densely populated as far as I know. And if they're cutting down all the trees, that would be, might cause a heat wave or something. So it's interesting to find out what all the haplogroups are of the B'nai Manasseh in India, because I'm guessing there's probably more than just the O there. Can you explain the LY DNA in the Indus Valley, Pakistan, and North India? Are they Semitic? The L is, I have it designated as the Thracians. And the Thracians were Greeks, early Greeks. And I believe that Alexander, when he went to India, he took the L haplogroup to the Indus Valley, which is fertile valleys, and that's, of course, there's a lot of R1, I think R1A and stuff, R1B, whatever, as well in the India, and there's even R2, which is Togarma. So, yeah, that's how the L got to India, because Alexander the Great wanted to ride elephants. That's my explanation. So that's, yeah, and if you look at the map, you can see that. If I can find them, there's a map. I just have to zoom out, zoom in, and you can see the L here. And there's also the T over here of the Javans, but I think that's more because of the sea route, sea trade. The sea travel, because you have the T over here, and you have the T over here. It's probably from the seagoing Greek sea people with the descendants of Javan from the sons Elisha, Dodanim, Kittim, and Tarshish, who are all Mediterranean sea peoples. And that's why the Phoenicians also had the T in their population, and that could be how the Jewish people got some of the T in their population as well. But like I said, there is a Jewish population in Portugal that has like 15% T in their population, which is significantly more than the other ones, probably because of their association with the city of Tarshish. And that's probably how they got the T, so that much T in their population. So that's what I believe. And of course, you really can't argue with the Cohen model haplotype, which is J1P58, which is 50% of the people who claim to be descended from Aaron are descended from Aaron, or they have this haplogroup, which is a huge signal indicating that these are the descendants of Aaron. And of course, that's why people in Africa were flown to Israel, because of this Cohen model haplotype, which is a very, very strong indication of the Jewish people, or the Cohen model haplotype descended from Aaron. Okay. Pashtun from Afghanistan is R1A. Are they the lost tribes of Israel or Greek descendants? The R1A, I believe, is Ashkenaz, the descendants of Ashkenaz. who is the son of Gomer, who also went into Europe. His descendants also went into Europe, descendants of Gomer. So that's what I believe the R1A is. So let me just show this map here to show what the designations are. These are the Hamitic haplotypes is A, B, C, D, and E are all Hamitic. The Semitic haplogroups are F, G, H, I, and J. These are all Semitic. And these haplogroups of the R1A and the O and the N and the T and the L and the K and the Q, these are all descendants of Japheth. They're 7 sons of Japheth, which I now have as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is R, and the P is missing. That would be 7. 7 sons of Japheth. So I don't even know why the P is missing, but it's missing. But those are the 7 sons of Japheth, as we have seen there. There's a lot of P. There's a lot of P lineages, which, like I said, mirror the movements of the K lineage, which is Tubal. So, and the O. The O is here too. So the O being Magog, the P being Meshech, and the K being Tubal would make sense of them all being in the same area. And of course, they're up in Eastern Europe as well. The K, I don't know if it's K's in Eastern Europe, but I have to double check on that. But it is in Italy, where Tubal was known to have been the first descendant, or first to migrate to Italy, were the descendants of Tubal. And today, 8% of central Italy is still 8% of Italy is still K, a K haplogroup. But that's the way I have it. If anybody has any suggestions or concerns or something, the new assignment is the P, which is missing from the Simmons Genome Project. So that's why I had the N as Meshech, when the N is actually from Magog. So it's Magog, Javan, Tiraz, Tubal, Madai, Gomer, and the P is Meshech. So that's my new designation. That's my new haplogroup lineage. Designations, whatever. And here's the J. The IJ is one lineage, and the ON is one lineage. And then there's the P, Q, and R, which are all separate lineages, because the Q is pretty much certain it's the Medes, and the R is almost absolute that it's Gomer. And now the P is looking like it's the descendants of Meshech, which I didn't even know there was a P lineage, because people don't teach this stuff. So yeah, the R1A, it's pretty much descendants of Ashkenaz, as far as I can tell. The only way that it would be switched would be with Togarma. I mean, Ashkenaz Ribfath. But Ribfath is known to have gone into southern Europe, so it looks like the R1B is Ribfath, the R1A is Ashkenaz, and the R2 is Togarma. And that's all the R's there are. Which is an interesting fit. And of course, if any little single thing was different or wrong or didn't match, it would throw out the whole thing, basically. with, the exceptions of odds and ends, which I'm working on here, trying to get them all together. So yeah, I think it's not too bad. See what else we have up here. I think we have some more up here. Yeah, so this is the K. This is showing the K and the P and the K and the M and the S, but Australia's made up more of the C and the K. I mean, obviously there's an S in Papua New Guinea and Australia, and there's the K's in Australia too, as well as the C. But yeah, that's interesting. And there's a lot of P in South Asia as well, and a lot of K. And the L and the T are closely associated, but they're two different lineages. The L and the T, because obviously the locations are completely different. Let me look at this. The L and the T. See they go way back to the beginning. The L and the T, they separate. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is. The L is the descendants of Tiraz, and the T is the descendants of Javan, who all of his sons were in the Mediterranean. So that's why I'm designating the T as Javan, because they were sea people, traders. They traded, as you saw, with the Horn of Africa and all the way to India. And they're throughout the Mediterranean, all throughout the Mediterranean as well. And they made up part of the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians also consisted of the R1b, obviously, and the Q and the T and the G. Where's the G? The G is the Syrians. And the I and the J. So all these haplogroups are found in Native American populations who are, they come up with their DNA being designated as Mediterranean, and they're trying to figure out how they are Mediterranean. But it was clear from the lineages that it goes. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll just pull it up and see how that goes. The Q haplogroup, instead of crossing this way, with the exception of the Inuits, the Q haplogroup crossed to Central America, spread out north and south from there. So let me pull this up. I'll use this one here. I'll put in the HRS. Oh, what did I do? This one here. I guess that's what it is. So this is the migration map. I'm just only going to do the Q because I've done all the other ones before, but the other mitochondrial DNA mirrors the Q. The A haplogroup of the maternal lineage, which would be the daughters of Madai. The C haplogroup would be the daughters of Japheth, and the D maternal haplogroup, the daughters of Japheth. All of these mirror or follow this exact same route as this Q haplogroup that I'm going to show right now, which is really very interesting. I'd like to do, maybe I should do just one of them because it might take too long, but let me just go ahead and hit this Q. It might take a little while, but it's going to show the migrations of the Q haplogroup going off the coast of Africa all the way to Central America and spreading out from there. because it's going to be a little bit busy. The map's going to be a little bit busy, but that's why I'm only going to do it once, because the other haplogroups, the mitochondrial haplogroups, jump around a little bit more, but they show the exact same migration to Central America. And there we have it. Before I put in the routes, migration routes, oops. Okay. Let me try to fix this. We can see that there's Q over here in different places, but notice how strong this is in Central America. I mean, this is, I can turn up the heat a little bit on this, the intensity, but that's a lot of, like I said, there's larger population in the places where they went to sometimes than in the places where they came from, which is right there in Turkmenistan, right there below the Black Sea, right there. It's exactly where they came from. Right there, where it says Turkmenistan. So now let me put in the migration routes. And you will be surprised. Okay, now this includes modern day travel. Now what I'm going to do, I'm probably going to just, which one is this? 56. Yeah, I think I'm going to just, well, let me just go ahead and put in the samples. These are individual samples of the Q haplogroup that have been found. Let me back this off in time, and you will be very surprised at the migration route. Or migration route. There it is. Notice it. They have this thing going back. For some reason, they have it going back 161,000 years, and nothing happens for like 50,000 years. Nothing's happened. There's a Q. Now, make sure we go slow. Okay, now start. You can see the Q spreading out. Of course, the Q actually started, like I said, in this area right here below Turkmenistan, or right there in northern Persia, Medes and Persians, That's where they started out from. But let's go ahead and follow the migration routes into Europe, because remember they went into Europe. Oh, what's this? What is this? Look at that. That is unbelievable. So when the Medes moved up to Lydia, when they got as far as Lydia, then they were unable to defeat the Lydians. That was the same time, according to their guesstimation of times, that this lineage went off the coast of Africa to Central America, as you can see, actually almost in Cuba or Jamaica or somewhere. Well, these are not exact locations. They're just showing, these are just showing the number. That's a QL54. But anyways, now you can see why there were megaliths early on in South America. Look where it is. It's right there in Ecuador and Peru. And that's where the sample is found, pretty much, I guess. But notice the migration pattern. Notice how it spreads out from there, from Central America. It just explodes from Central America. And it's hard to go slow because they have it so big. Now, this is going back 10,000 years, according to them. When it jumps over, it's 15,900 years. But the mitochondrial lineages go back 20,000 years with the same migration pattern, the same to Central America. From Central America goes up north and south. So, this is clearly showing that they didn't come. As a matter of fact, I've shown before that they crossed the other way. According to this information, they crossed the other way to Siberia from Alaska before they ever crossed from Alaska to America. As you can see right at this point, you can see here they crossed from Alaska to Siberia before they crossed from Eastern Asia to Alaska. According to this information, might not be all the information. It's probably incomplete, but that is the direction that this lineage took. You can't argue with the DNA. You cannot argue with a route that they took. It clearly shows they moved through the Mediterranean, off the coast of Africa, to Central America, and spread north and south from there. So there's nothing anybody can say to the contrary, because you cannot argue with DNA. Well, I got to take off again. I gotta meet somebody. Sorry about everything. Oops, where am I going? Where I go? Come back here. I gotta go. Oh, this thing's working slow again. Oh, here it is. That's what I want right there. StreamYard. There we go. All right. God bless everybody. Sorry I can't answer the questions right now. I gotta go run. So God bless everybody. Bye-bye. And have a great weekend. I see Dana there. Greetings. All right. Take care.